Hello, everybody.
Ooh.
This is
Hi
the
there.
special episode because Aaron's here.
Oh,
That's
hi.
Yeah, we're just going to talk about regular stuff today. Nothing like, big or anything. Not like the whole year of movies encapsulated into
Nothing like
whatever.
that. No.
Yeah, how you guys doing? Jeremy's here. Aaron's
Mhm.
here. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great. I
Yeah.
am excited about this show.
Yeah, me too. I look
Yeah.
forward to it every year. I think I say it every year. It's one of my favorite days of the year is getting to talk the year in movies with you guys. It's a lot of fun. So yeah.
All right. This is Recotopia episode 56. We will be doing the year in movies 2022. I totally lied before that. No, you believe me too. Hello everybody out there in chat who have come here to watch us on a Tuesday talking about the best of this year. And where else do we start but what is, I think, the number one movie of the year, Top Gun Maverick. I watched this movie. I knew it was going to be huge. I didn't know it was going to be this huge, but I knew it was going to be huge because I saw it on opening night, and there were people who were, quote, fired up after that movie. People who were so fired up that I decided not to leave the parking lot until everybody had left. That's
my
how
goodness.
fired up people were about Top Gun Maverick. What do you guys think about this movie?
It was on earlier this morning, and
Yeah.
right up to showtime. I think the credits were rolling right when we were getting started behind the scenes. I love it. It's vastly superior to the original. The original is not terrible, but it relies on a lot of nostalgia and 80s music, and it's got everything you want in a summer blockbuster. And that moment near the end when that enemy plane stops on a dime and starts spinning and they're both like, what the fuck? That gives me goosebumps every time I see it. So yeah, I love it. Aaron?
It's just top-notch old school movie making, right? Like it's top-notch storytelling. It's practical effects. It's just saying we're going to actually go up in fighter planes, do cool stuff, and shoot it on actual film. Like it's the heart behind it is so real and passionate, and I think that comes through. And a lot of that's Cruise, his whole like let's do it all for real kind of vibe, and it just works. It doesn't work quite as well, I don't think, if the storytelling doesn't work as well, but the storytelling is just so tight and so perfect. They get to that run through where he, comes in and everybody knows somehow he has secured a jet and he's going to make this run through at the exact time that they're all looking at the screen, but it just works. The cut to the reaction shots, everything in this movie is just adrenaline. It's really, really cool. Yeah, I like this one.
Yeah, I liked it. I was surprised at how much people really liked it, though. Like it was kind of that kind of a crazy thing, and it benefited from a summer that was kind of shitty. It played all summer. It played forever.
Yep.
Like it played like a movie back in the 90s would play when something would do well. But yeah, I liked it. I think people went. I think it's way overrated at this point, but it's still good. I mean, it's like everything you guys were saying. It's everything about it is what makes it such a special movie this year and everything. But yeah, Top Gun Maverick. Now, I don't know if Avatar 2 has a chance to beat it domestically, but it's like 40 million or so behind. And Aaron, I know you really wanted to talk about this movie, so let's talk about Avatar 2 while we're here.
Well, it seems like when a movie has dominated will it ever come out conversation for the last decade or more, that it's probably worth at least mentioning that it came out and made boatloads of money, as apparently all James Cameron movies do. You're correct. It is second domestically. For the year. It is easily first worldwide.
By far.
Over 2 billion, right?
Over 2 billion, yeah.
Just wild. I really enjoyed this, and I'm on record as saying that I think the story is a lot better here. I think it's clear that it wasn't just Cameron doing the story on this, that he brought some people in to really build some interesting connections, some interesting relationships. I honestly think that for a setup movie, this is really good work. Like, because you can tell this movie is doing a lot of relational setup for payoffs that are going to happen down the road. There are characters who are related to someone but with other people, and like there are moments where somebody has to make a choice to save somebody else or kill somebody else that's going to pay like relational emotional dividends story-wise, like in episode 3 or 4 or whatever. And so you can tell there's a lot of setup going on here, but it still feels very contained. And I think a lot of that has to do with Cameron's ability to use set pieces to really drive story. And that final battle / Titanic 2, / everything that's going on there at the end it's just captivating. I was just really enthralled with all of it. So
yeah, I pretty much liked it too. I think way better than the first one. And the presentation that I saw was really well done, 3D, bright 3D too, which is something I had never really seen before. This 3D either came a long way or they did it just right for this one showing that I watched when I saw it. But Avatar, it's you don't know if this is sort of been swirling around in your head, but Avatar, even it's the third of these 3 movies that I'm thinking about, has a similar story to Wakanda Forever, and it has a similar story to The Woman King.
Sure.
All 3 of those movies have a lot of similarities. There's a lot of tiny details, obviously, that are completely different, but like some of the story details in some of those movies are just exact. It's always in all 3 of the movies, there's a resource that a imperialist nation wants, or an imperialist world wants, and there's 2 tribes, and one tribe, like it doesn't happen this much in Avatar. It happens in the other 2 movies, but there are 2 tribes who stand to lose a lot based on this imperialist nation, whatever, trying to steal it. And in 2 of the movies, the 2 tribes go to war over that resource, the way they handle that resource and everything. I thought that was an interesting thing that I saw, sort of a theme going through these movies for 2022.
It's clear Cameron wants to make a point with this universe about ecology, about environmentalism. Like he has a clear message that he's working with here. One thing that separates this from the first one, I think, is in the first one, it really is about militaristic power and the idea that the military will be seeking these things. In this one, it's commercial power, right? Like the what we're seeing here are pirates, quote unquote, as part of the idea. And even the military part of it is kind of a break off from the military. They're kind of their own thing. So it kind of shifts into a different angle on what he's saying about protecting resources, protecting the environment, and not mining it to death in those ways. And you're correct about the presentation. I didn't speak about the variable high frame rate, which I just think is great. I love it. I know for some people the soap opera effect is a little bit too distracting. Totally get that. To each their own. For me, I love the clarity of it, and the brightness you talk about is also part of the frame rate thing, because when there's more specific frames per second, it actually makes the image brighter as well. So it's a really interesting thing that happens there too that I've noticed with high frame rate stuff.
It probably worked for me in this instance because it's more animated than usual.
Correct. Yeah.
The other ones that have done this in the past, like the Will Smith movie that I can't think of right now.
Yes. I can't think of the name either, but yeah.
That movie was I had a hard time getting past that soap opera effect there. And I think this one, it works pretty well. I think it may just be a matter of like what kind of movie you're presenting to me for that to work.
Well, and it's also the first movie ever to do variable high frame rate, where the frame rate actually, to be clear, the frame rate is what it is for the entire thing, but during sections it doubles up frames so that it appears to be a lower frame rate during scenes that are just talking or those kind of things.
Yeah,
So
the movie's Gemini Man. Slab just told us.
Correct.
Gemini Man was the one that I was starting to think of.
Yeah.
All right, on to let's see. Let's move around here, and wow, there's a lot of just like.
I like how you didn't even like you knew I had nothing to say about that movie, so you didn't even throw it for me.
Well,
I like that you know me that well.
Well, I know you didn't see it either, so so yeah, no point. Let's see. Let's go to something Oscar nominated here. Let's go to Elvis.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to go all around here, all around. And Jeremy, you specifically said that you might want to say something about this, so let's talk about Elvis.
It's one of those weird movies that as I'm watching it, I'm like, there are lots of good things here, but I'm not sure I'm digging it. And then like a week later, I'm like, yeah, that was really good. I enjoyed that. Like, it's probably without a doubt my favorite Baz Luhrmann movie. And there's plenty of Baz in this movie, but I feel like he either channeled it through Tom Hanks and Austin Butler or just toned it down. And yeah, Austin Butler doesn't necessarily look, it's kind of like that Solo movie situation where he doesn't really look like Elvis, but he embodies that persona. Because at the end of the movie, they basically show you the real footage that they had just shown you of Austin Butler doing 70s old Elvis singing that song at the piano on stage. And it's eerie how much he channeled him. So, I mean, Tom Hanks is doing something weird, and it doesn't really bother me. And I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected to.
Yeah, it's kind of the year for Tom Hanks doing something weird in movies. He's making some interesting choices, which I kind of like. I like that he's trying some stuff. It doesn't always work. I don't think it works here. I think Hanks is kind of one of the only things about this movie that doesn't work for me, though. I really like this movie, and in fact, it's grown on me quite a bit since I've watched it the first time, and I've watched it another time since then. Part of that is the Austin Butler performance. It's really incredible. It's really great work. Part of it is I kind of love this Baz Luhrmannized version of what a biopic is. Like there's something freeing about his ability just to take how this stuff usually works and just go, nah, I'm just going to do some sort of weird cross-cut, adrenalized thing to get us to the next place. I don't know. It's creative. I like the creativity in it to do a lot of what it does. So yeah, I enjoy watching this. If nothing else,
I wasn't a big fan of this movie. I liked it. Okay. The thing for me is when you call a movie Elvis, it should be about his drive, his sort of like what makes him tick, what made him get into the. Didn't feel like it gave me enough on that. It gives you some hints and flashbacks and things like that. The shows, he may have been more than inspired by things that he heard in his youth to become interested in music, but it just feels so much more like Tom Hanks's movie than Elvis's movie. And so I was just, I was a little disappointed in the presentation of this one. And it was long too, right? This was like a 2.5 something hour movie.
Yeah, it's long.
So I was sitting there going, I know that Tom Hanks is your star, is your star player in this, but man, we could have known that he was an evil influence or evil presence in Elvis's life without having him be the main guy. It felt like sometimes in this movie.
Yeah, I've noticed this with other biopics too. When you steal agency from the central person in your story, you steal the ability for us to really learn anything about them too. And so because Elvis in this, and I would say even more Freddie Mercury in the Queen one, because they don't seem to be making it, because the whole movie is about how other people are moving them like a chess piece or a pawn or whatever, well, then you don't get to connect to that central character in a meaningful way and be able to really experience kind of who they are, what the movie is saying about them. What is this movie saying about Elvis? It's kind of a missed opportunity. As the Whitney Houston one was the same way. And you know, we're not. I don't think we'll talk about that one, so I'll just mention it here. But it was a terrible movie, one of the worst biopics I've ever seen, and so much of that has to do with some of these. The people who know and love these people are the ones putting it together, and so it strips any of that negative agency out of you know, the main characters. So yeah.
Continuing on some Oscars here, let's go with All Quiet on the Western Front. This movie, I guess like Netflix did what they always do with this. I don't remember a showing here in Nashville, but maybe there. I'm sure there was. Belcourt usually runs these things, but Netflix, with a chance at some Oscars here, especially in the Best International Film category. But this has gotten nominated for Best Picture as well. This is a you know, a big anti-war film. I've never read the book or seen the other couple of adaptations of this. And I found this really good. There were some moments though, so the way they framed this movie is a little off for me, but like but because it makes it seem like the horrors of war are only horrible if there's a negotiation going on that doesn't get finished in time. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah.
It's not saying that it's horrible any other time, really. I do think the way they present this is true to life, because I think even this was happening all over the world as far as recruitment was concerned. They were showing young kids like how great this was going to be when you get out there and you go to war and you're going to win it for your team and blah blah blah, and like of course you get there and the realities immediately smack you in the face, and this movie smacks you in the face with a lot of gory, terrible violence. That's as anti-war as it gets, and it's really well done, really well shot. I think it's great, but like I was sitting there going, yeah, no, it's disappointing that they haven't gotten done with this treaty yet all the way through this movie. These people are dying. But so anyway,
I mean, the reason I haven't seen it is because of that. I've heard it's extremely graphic and devastating, and I just need to be in a certain place to go there, and I haven't gotten there yet. So Aaron, what do you think of this movie?
I think on a technical level, it's quite an achievement. It is stunningly presented, sound, visual, all of the acting. It's really, really well done. I got about halfway in and was just like, I don't know that I need another War is Hell movie. Like I just I get it. Like I'm on board. I am so on board. Like let's stop doing war. I'm totally with you. War, what is it good for? Like I'm here, right? And I just don't know how much trauma I need to put myself through, you know, for what purpose. Now the purpose in this case is to watch a piece of, you know, entertainment. You know what I'm saying? But it's partially my job to know these stuff and to watch these things. But if I had just been a regular person watching this, I think about halfway through, I may have just said, you know what, I get it. I'm good. I understand. And as beautiful as this is, and as amazing as this is, it's traumatic to watch, and I don't like feeling pain. It's just not something I enjoy. So, so I'm out, because you're not seeing. There's not a lot new here, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, not really.
So yeah.
I'll continue on some more Oscars here. Let's completely switch gears and go with the Fablemans, the Steven Spielberg movie. Sort of the one of our I guess odes to film, or you know, our you know, appreciation of all things movies kind of movie, semi autobiographical in nature. I really enjoyed this. I was actually surprised how much I liked the Fablemans. I was expecting latter day Spielberg, which hasn't been very good. I mean, West Side Story I thought was actually his best movie he'd made in years, and so he kind of continues it with this one. But I was still kind of like in this, I don't know if I want to watch this, but I really like this.
I'm with you. I think this is a great movie. I'm in the bag for Spielberg. I even like a lot of his recent stuff that other people didn't. I just think he understands structure and story innately now. Like he doesn't even really have to, process. I just think it's a part of him. And this movie is so well structured, and you get exactly what all the characters are about, why they're there, what's going on. I think it's interesting that he laid under this a theme of how he has used cinema to fight his own demons. Like he's used making movies as a way to confront things he's afraid of. And that then, like in a meta way, this movie is kind of the thing he's most afraid of, which is people knowing actually him and his life and his, his parents and these kind of things. And so there's a real interesting meta level to this movie that I picked up on as well that I really enjoyed. But it's just made really well. It's got great performances. Probably the best cameo of the year at the end. Like
Easily.
it's so much fun. So yeah, I like the Fablemans quite a bit.
There's a handful of movies that my brother's coming back this weekend, and that's on the list of a handful of movies we're going to watch together. So I haven't gotten there yet,
Nice.
but I am very excited to see it, and I think this might be your best picture winner.
Really?
Ooh, interesting.
Spielberg always turns heads. The Academy loves movies about making movies. And when we get to Everything Everywhere, I will share my reservations on that winning because I think that it's going to get upset, even though it looks like the favorite. So,
Well,
I'm calling this Fablemans.
Well, speaking of a love letter to film that Hollywood didn't like, apparently it would be Babylon. Since I'll go ahead and since we're on that theme, everything. Now, I watched this. I was underwhelmed. I did not like any of the characters that were in it. They are all horrible people to me.
Even the Diego Calva one? Even
okay, yeah, not
okay.
him.
No, I was genuinely asking.
But I will say this: the ending of the movie, I don't think is earned at all. That it's one of those. It's the same ending in Cinema Paradiso, by the way. It's the exact same ending, and in Cinema Paradiso
with a little more Avatar.
With a little bit more Avatar, right? Cinema Paradiso, though, I thought had really built up to its final, images, and this one I was like, I mean, yeah, kind of, sort of, I guess. And it's one of these things where it's like, you can see Damien Chazelle saying, boy, I love film. I love every kind of film. Look at this. We're going to be, even Avatar is going to show up in my arty movie and blah, 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 and all this. And I was just like, no, none of this built up to something good. Now I will watch it again at some point because it's Chazelle and he's always worth giving it another look. But I have a feeling that you loved Babylon. So.
more than a feeling. More than a feeling.
Yeah.
I think what I was trying the other day to put my finger on what it is about Chazelle's movies that really gets under my skin. And I think it's every single one of his movies, aside from the Park Bench one, which I actually haven't seen, his first movie, but from Whiplash, Whiplash, La La Land, First Man, and now Babylon, they are all dealing with the same question, which is it worth it? Is it worth it? And I think there's something really compelling about that question for me. So for instance, in Babylon, since that's what we're talking about, the question is the magic of movies worth the cesspool that it has come from or been built on, and the careers and the humans that have been destroyed by it, and all of those things? Is that worth it? And that question is compelling to me. I also, Singing in the Rain is my favorite movie of all time. It has been for a long time. And I went into this knowing that it was kind of an homage to Singing in the Rain. What I didn't realize is that it's a fictional backstory to the actual making of Singing in the Rain. Like it's not just that it pays homage to this movie. It literally says to you, have you thought about the actual humans who put together this movie that is pure joy and fun and love? And what if their stories were full of dirt and trauma and terror and all of these things? Does that change how you feel about Singing in the Rain? And I think it's a really interesting, valid question. Did the movie have to go as hard as it did? I think maybe it did. I don't know. It goes really hard because I think Chazelle really wants to sell it. But I also think it's just a great opportunity for him to play and to have fun doing some oneers and some really interesting things with the camera and some of those things as well. But I'm with you. The only character that was likable to me was Diego Calva's character. I think that's intentional. I think he's, supposed to be the one that gets away and the one who at the end is asking, is it worth it? What this did to my friends, is this joy I'm feeling, is it worth it? So yeah, I'm always moved by his movies, and this one is no different. I really, I've seen it 3 times now, as long as it is. I've seen it 3 times now, and I will see it again this weekend in anticipation of the Oscars, and I pick up something different every time. It's pretty intricate.
I'm scared to watch this movie because I feel like it will finally crush the notion that Amsterdam and Babylon are the same movie.
They aren't the same movie, no.
Which I've only really seen the posters and trailers for both of them, and I think Margot Robbie is the problem here. But they both feel like the same movie to me, and then once I watch one of them, I won't be able to have that anymore.
Well, you could watch one of them and still have that. You just can't watch them both.
That's true.
You have to pick one.
Yeah. Well, and for those of you scoring at home, 175 movies are on our list. We're not going to be talking about 175 movies.
It's true.
But Aaron saw all of those 175 movies, and he saw fucking Babylon 3 times.
It's true.
Let's see. Let's get to some more box office, I guess. Let's talk about The Batman, which, Jeremy, was this the only movie you saw in theaters last year?
Yes, this is the only movie I've seen in theaters since. No, actually, this and Ambulance at Sin Week.
Yeah, that's right. Ambulance
I've seen in theaters since the pandemic.
Ambulance was worth it. No context needed.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, The Batman I saw with you and Jonathan and my wife, and that was a pretty good experience. There's the thing that will always hold this movie down is it's 25 minutes too long, and I'm not entirely sure how Matt Reeves got that kind of clout. And I know exactly where to cut it, and it's that section where he goes from John Turturro back to Alfred, back to John Turturro, and it's like 20 minutes seriously of him being told one thing about who killed his dad. Then he goes to Alfred. He's like, oh no, that guy's a criminal. He's lying. Oh, and Bruce is just like, okay, I'll believe what everybody tells me. And you cut all of that. And I think this is nearly a perfect film. I love Gotham City in this movie. I think Pattinson is great. I love the visual design. There's a shot near the end that is maybe the Batmaniest thing I've ever seen, when he comes through the ceiling of that arena and he flies down onto the stage and just kind of, not the stage, the Jumbotron, but just kind of arrives on the scene of this chaos. And it gives me chills every time I see it. Can't wait to see where he goes from here. And I'm all in. Colin Farrell deserves an Academy Award that I don't think he will.
Yeah. And Paul Dano is great in that movie too. Like, I feel like Paul Dano had 2 great performances in the past year that overall he just didn't get very much, like, I don't know, awards love for in the end. He's one of the snubs, I think, from the Fablemans. But he's great in this, and it just goes to show, don't worry about who gets cast as long as it's a good actor. Don't worry about who gets cast for these villains and Batman and all this. Just get a good actor and you're fine. Usually don't give me examples of bad ones, because I know they're bad ones, but for the most part, they nail these down pretty well, I'd say.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was much fretting over Paul Dano being the Riddler, but like, it seems like that's the type of thing that we always worry about, and it ends up being good usually.
Yeah, they
So.
freaked out when they cast Affleck, and then he turned out to be good. They freaked out when they cast Pattinson. He turned out to be good. I just want to know the story of the Colin Farrell casting. Like I feel like Matt Reeves went to him and said, "I want you to play a character that looks nothing like you and that you've never played before, but I know you're going to nail it." Like I just don't know how he knew that was going to turn out so great. Also, best Batmobile ever, in my opinion.
Yeah. Aaron, anything to say about the Batman?
I didn't enjoy it as much as Jeremy. In fact, I didn't enjoy it much at all. I found it. I found it beautiful. I was really. It's Reeves, right? That directed this. I'm really impressed with his movie making. I think he's really good at what he does. Colin Farrell could win an Academy Award for this if he were in the movie. He's clearly not in the movie anywhere.
That's right. That's true.
I think for me, I think I started to get, and I need to give this one another chance. I know I do, but I started to get distracted by this underlying message that just started jumping out at me, that the whole movie is about how much Batman sucks. Like just how how much we're not supposed to root for him. And I'm just like, well, then why what are we doing here? You know what I mean? And so I think over the course of a few movies, maybe that arc gets a little bit better. But I kind of felt if I liked Batman by the end, that I was a terrible person.
No, I totally disagree.
Okay, tell me.
I think that is his journey. He thinks Batman might be bad. At the end, there's this whole monologue where he's like, I might be causing more problems than I'm solving, but that doesn't mean I should stop trying. And that whole climax is him being a hero without going around beating thugs' ass in the subway. But
so you think he had a moment of change at the end? Maybe I just didn't see that. Okay, all right.
I think so. I think and I have never seen a film where Bruce Wayne had to wrestle with that. Like, there's no Christian Bale. I
agree.
Where he's like, am I really the bad guy? In fact, it's the opposite. He's like holier than thou, the whole trilogy. So I think, I don't know, obviously, but I think Reeves wants to give us a journey that starts out in year 2, like this movie does, and maybe things aren't going super well, and maybe he's not the hero he thinks he is. And how does that inform where he goes from here?
I can see that.
I fully admit, I love this like you love Avatar. So I'm not trying to change your mind on your opinion of the film.
No.
But I do think the film is asking, does Batman suck? And maybe in this version he does, and he's got to be something different.
Well, the cognitive dissonance is this, right? That Batman as a character, vigilante justice is his whole thing. And this movie is asking the question, is vigilante justice good? And I don't think the movie says it is.
I agree.
So the movie is saying his whole thing is bad. So I don't know where we go from there. That was what I was wrestling with, and I think it overall distracted me from what is a really well put together movie with some amazing stuff. So yeah.
We managed to again talk about the Batman without talking about Zoe Kravitz, and we did that in a whole review. And it's like, it's like that's how I feel like that's one of my main issues with the Batman, even though I liked it, is that I felt she was kind of pushed to the side a little bit in that movie. And it gets to the point when you're talking about the plot of this movie, it's hard. She's involved. She's not like, it doesn't seem terribly integral to it. But anyway, I'm going to run the gamut on comic book movies. I think comic book movies had their worst year, even though they're still making money, but I think they had their worst year ever this year, as quality wise. Now I liked Doctor Strange the first time I watched it, the Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness movie. Running through it the second time, I didn't like it as much, but I do really dig what Sam Raimi is trying to do with Doctor Strange. And so I still will hold it a little bit in higher regard than some of these, but I don't know where I think the problem is now. I think when this all started back with Iron Man back in the day, we kind of had this idea of where it was headed. And then after the Avengers, we kind of had an idea of where it was going. And then it finally culminated in that big, Avengers Endgame and everything. And we knew where it was going. Now if it could be just because COVID screwed everything up or what. I don't know. I have no clue where these movies are going anymore. What is their overall that they're headed towards? I know that they're making Kang the next big bad. I think that that's going to be the sort of the through line on all of this. But like all the movies that have come out so far have just kind of, I don't know, they've just been sequels to existing movies and nothing really. Maybe I'm completely wrong about that. Maybe that's how confused I am, is that I don't see
No, you're not
Kang in
wrong.
all these other movies. So
you're not wrong, and you're also not abnormal in the fact that you probably haven't watched all the TV shows either, right? Like, and that's
and the only thing I saw was Loki. Now Loki's key in all of this.
it is.
I have seen Loki, but I didn't see Captain America. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Didn't see that.
Yeah.
Didn't see that. Didn't see Hawkeye.
Miss Marvel,
She-Hulk.
Yeah, Miss Marvel. Any of those, or the She-Hulk? Yeah, I didn't see any of those.
I think they overestimated how many people that watch the films were gonna watch the TV shows. I've even seen that they're, I think, planning to pull back the number of shows they make in the coming years. That has to be a signal that they're not doing the volume that they expected, even if they're doing big volume. I haven't watched any of them. I haven't watched a single MCU show, and I eventually will, maybe. I don't know. Enough of what happens in them that is important to the movies leaks out onto Twitter anyway. And I don't know if I want to spend 10 hours just to be caught up on everything that might be relevant in the next, I don't know, Captain America movie. I don't know. It's just not me. I have a line.
If you're not looking at them as plot information, the only one I would recommend you watch just for entertainment value is WandaVision. I think WandaVision is really entertaining as a TV show and has a really interesting concept. But the others are driving plot. I'm not saying they're bad. They're entertaining. They're fine. Chris, I think to go back to your point about where are we going with all of this and how these movies seem to lack that momentum, I think you're absolutely right. I think it'll become clear here probably pretty quickly that we're headed towards finding a way to make a single timeline in a single universe, and that the idea is that we cannot exist in the multiverse. These incursions that we hear about in Doctor Strange and some of the other movies are going to create a real problem. Kang's going to, be part of that, and eventually the Avengers will have to come together and simplify everything again and just cut off the multiverses.
They'll need Shuri, who is the de facto Tony Stark at this point, to invent a machine in 5 seconds using her AI that she uses in Wakanda Forever. I was sitting there. There were moments. I'm skipping into Wakanda Forever. I need to go back to Doctor Strange real briefly, but there were moments in Black Panther where I thought Shuri is. They're filming her the exact same way they did Tony Stark back in the day. They're like, I was halfway expecting her to say, 50 years later, you're still taking me to school and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, Doctor Strange 2 had a lot to do with the WandaVision, but did.
It totally undid WandaVision, though.
That's the big problem with Doctor Strange ultimately, right? Like all of that work they did to sort of get her back to normal a bit by the end.
Well, at least make her nuanced.
Was actually upended by the very last episode.
Correct.
The very end of the last episode, upended it so that they could just go ahead and do this.
Yes.
So yeah, that was a real disappointing thing to go through that journey and then be like, nope, she's evil again. She wants to ruin somebody. That's the other problem. The plot line is exactly Cloverfield Paradox. It's exactly that story that they did in that. So anyway, but you've seen all the shows.
I have.
How many of the shows so far have to do with any of the movies that have come out besides Loki?
WandaVision.
The Loki and WandaVision.
And as far as the future, I don't know. I'm sure Miss Marvel will play into the future because the Marvels is coming out as a movie and she will be in that. The answer is not many of them, and sometimes that's a bonus. Like, I like that about She-Hulk, actually. I think She-Hulk is also kind of a fun show, and it's not trying to play into any of the overarching stuff. So I'd have to pop open a list and kind of look through the others and see if any of them do. But for the most part, the only like real like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they did this on TV was to introduce Jonathan Majors as Kang on one of the TV shows when he's going to be the ultimate, big bad in the series.
Yeah. It's funny. There's a lot of good comments coming in because we're in the comic book phase and everybody's got the got the comic book knowledge and everything. Rando says they added a new Tony Stark with that MIT student. Yeah, very well could be the MIT student.
Ironheart, right? From the comics.
Yes, I think you're right.
So she I think is extremely smart, but I think the MCU is showing Cherie to be smarter, but Ironheart may take Tony's place in terms of battle capabilities. She wears a suit and all that stuff. Yeah, Riri.
And I'm going to get to Wakanda Forever because we just talked about it. Like Nick says, Wakanda Forever is actually Iron Man 2, and this is something that I was thinking during the movie was that it's Iron Man 2 all over again. It's people going to congressional hearings about this technology they have and that they want and they want to have for themselves and so on and so forth. And that's how it begins. And that's how the we have the US and France, apparently the only two countries that want vibranium in the world. But that's the sort of the story of this. I mean, the movie is sort of like an elegy to Chadwick Boseman. Of course, there's the beginning of part of this movie, and of course the Marvel logos at the beginning, which we probably won't send just because not preemptively not sending something, but there's that, and then there's there's like 5 minutes at the end of this movie too, but Wakanda Forever is got the same thing where it's where the US wants that vibranium and they're gonna try to attack, and we uncover a new group of people, right? With the Talican, is that what it is? Is that what it is? I can't remember the name of that.
It sounds possible. I would have to look it up.
Something like that. They have their own vibranium that, and this MIT student that we've been talking about has discovered a vibranium detector of some sort. Okay, so both the Wakandans and the Talicans are gonna fight because the Wakandans want to what is it? I can't remember exactly what they want. The Talicans don't want them to be anywhere near it, and the Wakandans are like, well, we can share a little bit, maybe. I can't remember what it is, but like ultimately they don't agree on what should go on with the vibranium or anything. Anyway, what did you think of Wakanda Forever, Aaron?
I am with you in that I have a lot of ambivalence for the Marvel stuff this year. It really seems like they're flailing a little bit. I liked the all the stuff that they did to honor Boseman. I thought worked really, really well. I thought the funeral worked really well. I thought the stuff at the end worked really well. Felt meaningful to me. Part of that probably has to do because I can see the reality in the acting. Like I know these people aren't just acting. There's a real loss there that they're experiencing, and that is emotional to me. So that's part of probably why it works. As far as a comic book movie, it's a lot of whiz-bang fun, and that's okay. Like, I had a decent time at these movies. I just didn't come out of them thinking deeply about anything or super excited to see it again. They're becoming episodes of a good TV show. Like it's a little bit of ambivalence. I'm ready to feel that direction again, which I'm hoping Phase 5 we'll get more into. But
yeah. I mean, I like this. Maybe I don't know how much I like this compared to everything else that came out in the MCU this year. I guess it's up. It's I kind of liked it as much as I like Doctor Strange, really.
The only reason I might have Doctor Strange a little bit higher is I think for me, it was a funnier movie. Like I had a lot more laughs in Doctor Strange. In that note fight movie is one of my favorite moments of the year. Like that was a really cool scene. So I have some stuff to pull from Doctor Strange that I don't necessarily have when I think of Wakanda Forever. So
The worst one clearly is Thor: Love and Thunder, though.
I don't disagree.
Easily one of the most I don't know, joyless experiences I've had watching since Thor: The Dark World, maybe.
Yes.
That's the watching an MCU movie, and I was stunned because Taika Waititi has shown that he's great, and maybe it's not really his fault considering how the MCU gets, commanded by one person essentially.
It's hard to know. It's so hard to know. He's also doing so much right now. He's producing so much television in movie projects. I just wonder if he has like a split purpose going on with all the stuff he's doing.
This may not work financially for companies, but they do need to realize that giving time for projects to develop has got to be better in the long run for quality, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they don't care. Maybe it's the whole we need to get our bang for our buck while the iron's hot type of thing going on. But I don't know, man. It seems like it's really caught up to the MCU on all of this stuff. It's really not. I mean, that was really bad. And then speaking of really bad, this is the last comic book movie I believe that I need to talk about is Black Adam.
Jesus.
Maybe this is definitely one of the worst movies I saw the past year.
It's like it's hilarious to me that Dwayne Johnson thought this was a product that was going to propel him into a prominent role in the DC film universe. Like, I understand that was his goal, even going above his direct bosses at Warner's to the new boss of Warner's Discovery to get Henry Cavill in the movie. Like, this is not a guy, I don't think, that is not heavily involved in this movie all along. I'm sure he's one of the producers. I'm sure he was looking at dailies. I'm sure he knew what this was. And let's be honest, how many movies has The Rock made that are great? How many? I don't think he has a very good nose for what makes a good movie. I think he likes things in a movie that make him look cool to himself. And that feels like what Black Adam is. And then whenever he's not around, then we have Dr. Fate and Hawkman actually trying to make a good, entertaining movie. But Black Adam keeps coming in and dumbing it all down and making it stupid. Like, Pierce Brosnan is actually a bright spot in this film. It's just that everything is overshadowed by The Rock. The Rock. He's brooding. He's mad. He has lightning fingers. Okay, I'm done.
I'm just tired of comic book movies or any kind of movies really that where they've buried something that's so dangerous that nobody should ever get it again, and then they put fucking plaques up saying this is where it is. If you don't want it, you don't want it. You don't want it, but it's here. If you want it, you can have it. It's totally fine if you want to get it. I'm tired of that, man, and so it's exhausting. And you think you're right. I think sometimes people get so much power in a movie or whatever, and just drive it into the ground. And these movies follow the same path. They all look the same to me. They all look the exact same. They all have the same villain almost a lot of times, the same thing that they're after. There's nothing new anymore to me. Anyway.
I don't have anything to add. It's a terrible movie. It's and I usually will defend The Rock. I like it when he stays in his kind of like dumb action movie lane. I can have some fun with that stuff. But this is just there's so much wrong with this movie that I'm distracted nonstop by choices that are made and shots that are chosen. And it's just it's a bad one. It's a bad one.
It's a stinky one.
I'm just going to briefly mention this because it's in the top 10 of our domestic box office, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, because it also did that whole bury something that nobody should ever have. And then like, here's a blueprint on how to get it if you want it. There's a scene early on where Sonic is told that this thing is important and that nobody should ever have it, and I need you to go get it to protect it. And it's like, it's already protected, right? Nobody knows where it is. Just don't tell him where it is. It's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, onward to let's get back to some good movies. Let's get to some more Oscar stuff. Let's talk about finally Everything Everywhere All at Once.
This movie, I want to be back in time and be a fly on the wall as the Daniels are crafting this movie, because that I feel is as big an accomplishment as the actual finished product, because I don't think I could ever come up with a story this complicated that has this much goofy fun and heart. It really is a miracle movie, I think. And I hope it wins every award it's up for. I just don't think it will.
I'm interested to hear your theory on how how you think it could lose, because it is, in my mind, the most dominant front runner we've had since Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Like, it is sweeping everything. Like every single critics group, the SAG, PD, the Producers Guild, the Directors Guild, like, it's winning everything. And it's so hard for me to understand how there could be enough people in this new, what are we at? 7,000 people in the Academy now? Like, they keep broadening it every year. Who that voting block would be that would just, put Fablemans over the top or whatever. It just seems really, really interesting.
I will clarify. My prediction is more that they will screw over Everything Everywhere All at Once than it is that they will give it to Fablemans. I think Elvis and All Quiet on the Western Front both have a shot in my mind to take that. And it's just, there's no real theory at work here. It's just that we've had a couple times in the last few years, we've had an upset where a film like La La Land seemed to win everything leading up to the Oscars, and then
even Oscars night it seemed to win.
Even briefly won the Oscars. And I am worried that we're looking at that situation again. That because Oscar voting only started recently, like a week
in the
ago,
last couple of weeks. Yeah, and Nick in the chat says there are 9,500 members of the Academy now, pushing 10,000 votes for these awards.
Every year, Deadline or The Wrap will interview an anonymous old Academy voter who gives honest thoughts, and 90% of the movies this person hasn't ever seen. So we know these kinds of voters are out there, and I worry that there's fatigue over Everything Everywhere All at Once, and that whole thing with the Andrea Riseborough voting thing really started me questioning, not that there's anything shady going on, but that motivations for voting are less than pure, I think.
Well, I'm sure, certainly for a large portion, that is probably true.
And Parasite being the outlier, I think the Academy's a little racist, maybe a lot.
But I think what I'm saying is, with them continuing to add, that portion of the Academy continues to shrink, I believe. So it becomes harder to do that. I think the way Everything Everywhere All at Once loses is if there is a contingency of people who really don't want it to win, so they rank it at 10th, because it is a ranked system of tabulation. Right. So a movie like Coda that will get a lot of number 2s or number 3s can actually win, because people are ranking the other contenders down so low. So that's
I hope I'm wrong. I'm not wishing for this. I hope Everything Everywhere All at Once wins Best Picture and Best Actor and Supporting Actors and all the awards. I think it is certainly deserving.
Yeah, and even like Stephanie Hsu and Jamie Lee Curtis just like get co-Oscars.
I would love that.
Would be amazing.
It's so interesting. I would love for Jamie Lee to get an Oscar. I think that would be great. But I actually think Stephanie Hsu is the better performer. Like, I think she's the best performance in the movie, if I'm being honest. I think she's incredible in this movie. She has some moments that really blow me away. Chris, I remember
she could run the gamut.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember we watched this for the first time together with a couple of other people on the team. And walking out, I think we all were like, what did we just see? Like, there's this real element of like, this is a movie you almost have to fall in love with over time, because there's so much going on in it that first time you don't pick up. It was only my second, third viewing before I started to piece together like how intentional these universes are, and like what they're saying about Michelle Yeoh's character's transformation. You know, and everything that she goes through and finding peace and contentment with her relationship with her daughter is encapsulated in one of these universes, whether it be the same-sex relationship, that's encapsulated in the Hot Dog Fingers universe. The idea of letting her daughter make her own decisions is the Rakakuni universe, like putting her daughter on her shoulders instead of her being on her daughter's shoulders. Like all of this stuff is really, really intentional. It's a brilliant film. It really is super smart, and every time I watch it, I love it more. So
the my first experience with this movie wasn't good. It wasn't because of who I was watching it with, but it was the theater that we watched it in, the auditorium that we watched it in. The projection was extremely dark.
Yes, it was.
So I was trying to see through the haze of the bad projection through the whole thing. Then there's all the weirdness, and then there's the tired. We were all tired from Sin Week 2. That's
correct.
The other part of the very end of Sin Week. When this movie came out on Blu-ray, I popped this thing in because I knew we were going to send it, but I didn't know how we were going to send it. I watched it again. I was like, my God, man. This is
it's amazing.
I was like, this movie's really, really good, and we're gonna have to tackle it a different way. But yeah, multiple viewings, it doesn't even scratch the surface how many times you have to watch this, I think, to really, really appreciate it. And some people may not be able to get there on that second viewing, even because there's there's people getting beat to death with dildos in this movie. So
it's true. It happens
when you put it like that.
Exactly. I mean, that's really the 80% of the movie is people getting beat by dildos. So
more like don't.
Right. I think what we've got to say though about this movie, and we've already kind of said it, is that Hollywood needs more movies like this, even if it's not like make a movie exactly like Everything Everywhere All at Once, but to be original for once, try some things, do some different things. I know that they're really relying on all these comic book properties and things like that to stay afloat, but we really need a breath of fresh air here and there. And I guess it's all the more stark when a movie like that comes out in the middle of all this comic book malaise that we're in right now. And so this movie just blows away every bit of anything that came out. That I mean, all the stuff that made way more money than that is none of them are original. Like actually, there's only one other movie that I can think of, and we'll be talking about it. But there's only one other movie I can think of that had almost an entirely original concept, and it was not in the top 10, but it's maybe a hope for movies and movie goers that this movie. I will talk about that in a minute, but I think our love of this movie has shown through quite a bit. I think we've already given away the ghost on this one, but speaking of the other original one that I was thinking of, Nope. Which also came out in the summer. And this is another one that I watched the first time, not really liking all that much. I liked it okay, but then watched it the second time, and then suddenly things start piecing together a little bit better. And I really, really think I think this is Jordan Peele's. I mean, it's not better than Get Out, but I think it's close. Actually,
I agree.
It's pretty close.
I'm with you. This movie continues to grow on me. I locked in on a theme that I wasn't sure was intentional or not pretty early on in watching this, and it worked for me in a really deep and powerful way. And I'll mention it here shortly. But I found out recently in an interview, Jordan Peele has talked about that idea, and so it is intentionally in here. But there is this idea in this movie about how the camera elevates everything, right? So there's this idea that the camera can be your savior and your downfall. It can be both the thing that destroys you and the thing that saves you. And especially coming from Jordan Peele, and who has been known to really make explicit racial themes in his movies with Get Out, and Us for that matter. The idea that the camera can be a savior for the Black community is a very powerful theme and a very powerful thing. But it also has been a destruction for the Black community as well, in the way that it's been used against them and the way that the portrayals have been used. So once you lock into that, this movie really starts to click, in my opinion, and you really start to see the metaphor come out of the story, which I still think is exciting and fun. It's an interesting creature story, and I find it interesting on both levels. So
I'm probably just in between my first and second viewings to be able to praise this movie like you guys. I certainly didn't dislike it, but I do feel like after one viewing, it felt like the pursuit of some of those themes impacted my ability to enjoy the actual plot that was happening on screen, if that makes sense. But I do declare I need to give this another look.
That can happen with metaphor movies, by the way, where the metaphor dominates the story in a way that becomes a little distracting.
It was just so clear to me. He had so many big things to say. I felt like they were distracting me from the actual action of the story. But again, I'll revisit this after I see it.
Yeah, I think once you get down with that camera metaphor and watch the movie through that lens, haha.
Hey.
I didn't mean that. I did. I do now. But once you get through that lens, everything sort of clicks into place. Even what seems to be like a totally out of place moment in the movie, where they're just, well, let's show what happened on that 90s sitcom back then. And you're like, well, this is really well done, but it seems like a completely different movie to me. So I don't understand why this is being shown. Once you start looking at it through that sort of that camera eye, then it becomes a little bit better. It became better for me, and like I said, now I'm starting to think it's like on par with Get Out, and I love Get Out. So I'm gonna have to watch Nope again, probably even more in the future, just because it's one of those type of movies. I think Jordan Peele just constantly thinks about what I think he's one of those guys where every detail it matters. So it's fun to watch anything that he makes.
Agree.
All right. Continuing on the Oscar train, a movie that completely surprised me, mainly because I'd never heard of it before. And then a friend of mine was like, "Hey, you want to see this movie?" I was like, I've never heard of it. The Banshees of Inisherin. I had not seen a trailer, had not heard of the movie, anything. But usually, like when my buddy says, "Hey, you want to watch this? It's supposed to be good," I trust it. And my God, man, this is clearly in my top 5. I love the Banshees of Inisherin, and I did some great performances in this. Obviously, they've Carrie Condon is in the conversation, but yeah, it's such an unusual film where you have two buddies who aren't buddies anymore, and the one buddy doesn't want to tell the other buddy why, and it starts the whole plot of this movie. What did you guys think of this?
I still think I like In Bruges better. I think this is a performance piece, and I think everybody shines. I struggled a little bit to connect on a personal level, but it's an acting masterclass, and it's clear that these guys should only make movies with each other for the rest of their lives, because they have a really unique magnetic chemistry. I really liked it.
This is one of a couple movies this year in the awards race that I have a harder time parsing my feelings on because I saw them in a packed crowd at a film festival, right? I got a chance to go to, Fantastic Fest last spring, and Banshees was one of the ones they were showing. Martin McDonagh was there, like there was a conversation afterwards. So like, I know everything I saw there is elevated in my mind. Like, and so parsing through that sometimes can be a little bit tough, but I love this movie. And I think for me, thematically, the idea of this is a new way to say war is hell. This is a creative, different way to say that war is silly, it's dumb, and like because everything about these two friends don't have to be going this hard, but it just escalates and it just becomes this thing that is unredeemable. And in the fact that, you know, they have that conversation while looking at the actual war that's happening, you know, across the bay or whatever is certainly intentional and part of that theme that you know brings home why do we fight and why do we, you know, choose violence and those kind of things. So I liked all of that. In addition to, I thought the great performances. This movie is also hilarious. It's one of the funniest movies of the year. That's McDonagh. He's so good at that stuff. So yeah, one of the best scripts, one of the best performance movies. This is great stuff.
Yeah. Okay, now I want to talk about a theme that happened quite a bit this year, and that is the Eat the Rich theme. Yes. I will start with, since we're talking about eating, let's talk about the menu, which is an unusual film in its own right. The trailer sort of made this feel like it was going to be, you know, a Most Dangerous Game type of movie, or like recently The Hunt, one of those kind of things. But there's this, I really like this movie quite a bit. What did you guys think of the menu?
I was only able to watch it because of Aaron's persistence in recommending it, to the point where, and I think this was an act of love, he gave me a timestamp for when a gun suicide occurs in the film and described what happens right before it so that I could look away for 30 seconds or fast forward. And I loved it. This is one of the best movies of the year for me. I think it does click for me an extra level because I like fine foods and shows about cooking fine foods, and this is sort of a send up of that. This is sort of a chef who's realized this is all stupid and I don't want to do it anymore. And in real life, there was a chef this year at the most famous restaurant in the world, somewhere in Europe, who said, we're gonna shut down. It's considered the most innovative kitchen in the world, and he's just tired of it. He's like, fine dining is not sustainable, and we overwork ourselves to get this done. And the menu has a lot of this kind of themes. And I don't know if this guy in real life was a consultant or what, but it feels like the journey is very similar. I liked all the food stuff, and Nicholas Hoult just continues to wow me every time out. I don't think I've seen a bad performance from him yet. When I first saw him, I think was like the X-Men movies where he's playing Beast, and he's not given much to do there. But you know, Mad Max and The Favorite and this dude's got range, man. And he's pitch perfect in this movie. The over the top, overly giddy to experience this thing. God, I love this movie so much. And that's all I have to say.
It's another Fantastic Fest movie for me, so I'll mention that as well. Saw it at Fantastic Fest with a big crowd and just loved it so much. It was my favorite movie of the festival. I think it's a movie it's asking us to realize we are often high on our own supply. You know, like the no matter what, whether it's fine dining, whether it's conversation about movies, whatever your fandom is, right? Whatever your fandom is, that many times we can elevate it above, what it really is. And I think that's the whole cheeseburger element. Like all of that is, to say that. I just think this movie is really well structured and really funny. Some of the funniest subtitling I've ever seen in a movie. Tyler's BS got the biggest laugh in the crowd, and it was a subtitle. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those movies that's just enjoyable to watch. It's a lot of fun, and an interesting thing to say too, because it's such a dark comedy, but it is enjoyable to watch just because there's so much laughter. And it's also just right. It's just true. Everything this movie is saying feels right to me. And I enjoyed that. About the Nicholas Hoult performance, I did also want to mention this. It is one of those beautiful moments in a movie where a negative is turned into a positive because there's information you didn't know. I did not think Nicholas Hoult's performance was that good. I wasn't understanding it. Then some information is revealed later in the movie, and I was like, oh, his performance is genius. Like, like in hindsight, like it's really good. And I love it when that can happen. So I enjoyed that too.
Further along in this is Glass Onion, that the new Rian Johnson Knives Out mystery. Aaron, take it away on this one. Tell me what you thought about Glass Onion.
I am fine with Rian Johnson making a Benoit Blanc mystery every 2 years. Like I want to see them all. I think he is clearly in love with this genre and clearly understands the things that make it interesting. He's doing some kind of unique things in the murder mystery genre in this one that I liked. I think as I've watched this movie, a second and third time, the things I'm picking up on is how honestly he plays the plot of this movie. There are things I pick up on where I'm like, that was in plain sight, and I just missed it the first time I watched it. He never cheats things. He doesn't cut the camera away during things that will be questioned later. You have an opportunity to see exactly what happens. But because of maybe clever distraction, sleight of hand, those kind of things, you don't always pick up on it. There is a moment in the early part of the movie, I don't know how spoilery I want to be, but where a character calls somebody by a name that we don't know them by yet. And it's not until the second part of the movie that we understand what that was, if we even noticed it. So like there's all these beautiful, like honest clues to this murder mystery that I really like. I also think he really understands how a murder mystery has to have unique individual characters that are defined by unique individual things, and that makes it a lot of fun to watch as well. So I think it's a really fun cast. I think it has some fun cameos. Benoit Blanc is one of my favorite new characters of the last decade. I love watching Daniel Craig do this character. So I had a really good time. I really like Glass Onion.
Yeah, and I liked it, and I've said that I need to watch it again because it didn't have the same resonance with me that Knives Out did when I first watched that movie, and then ended up watching it like 5 more times afterwards, like pretty quickly. But I'm looking forward to watching Glass Onion again because of all the things that you just mentioned on this. But yeah, I did enjoy this. But again, I need to see it. I need to see it again.
It's also just one more thing. It's also a very, very important message at this very moment in time. The idea of what a glass onion is, that you can see the center clearly. There's not a lot of mystery, and yet you're still peeling back the layers. Like everything about this movie plays into this theme, from the puzzle box and the way that the different characters handle the puzzle box, the way that represents how the different characters handle stuff that happens at the end, from the fact of that everything is maybe simpler than it appears. Like that theme is a really interesting one that plays through the movie. I think Rian Johnson's really smart, and another one of those directors that really pays attention to the details, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, for certain. And then Triangle of Sadness, which is the big Oscar movie out of these three. Jeremy, I know you have thoughts about Triangle of Sadness.
I think I love what this movie was going for more than I enjoyed the movie. I was certainly captivated all the way through. I put my hands over my face as much as possible during the 20 minutes of violent puking.
Yes.
There's a lot of really interesting stuff to chew on here. And my favorite scene is the over-the-ship radio philosophical conversation about communism and capitalism, and they're both drunk, and everyone else who's going through this eventual shipwreck, it has to listen while they're terrified to these two drunk guys discussing like philosophy. I just feel like when the movie ends, it's making some statement that I simply don't get. And if the ending made a little more sense to me, then I might have more of a high opinion of the stuff that preceded it. But I don't know that it sticks the landing, but it feels like it thinks it sticks the landing, and that's just weird to me. So there you go.
It was the third Fantastic Fest movie, and Ian and I were at these movies together, and I looked at him as soon as this movie was over, and I said, I think I love everything about that movie except the ending. And Ian loved the ending, and he proceeded to tell me what he thought the ending was about. I just don't know that this movie needs an ambivalent ending. I feel like this movie is saying something pretty clear that I don't know how that ending gives us anything more than we already have or need for what I think this movie may be saying. And which is something that I really like, which is this idea that you have these political, cultural philosophies that you believe in, and at the end of the day, power corrupts no matter what the system is. I believe that's what this movie is saying, but I don't know why we need the open ending. If it is an open ending, Ian doesn't think it is an open ending. He thinks it's very clear what's happening in the ending. I think that's
perfect. What does he think is happening?
What's that?
What does he think is happening?
Well, I can't really say that without spoiling it for some people. So
then don't do that.
Yeah, but yeah.
Well,
are you talking about the last shot or the ending?
I am.
The last shot.
I'm talking about the last shot.
Yeah, the last shot. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the movie doesn't make clear if an action was taken or not with its last shot. It just. But again, Ian does believe it makes clear what happened. So, so yeah, I'm of two minds.
I really did like this movie a lot. I especially like. Well, I mean, the third act has got a lot of the what's on its mind is what comes out. But in the second act of this movie, I just love the fact that the cruise ship has set their rules basically against themselves immediately, because they say whatever they want, you give it to them.
Yeah.
And then when it actually contradicts their own rules, that's where they run into these problems. And it leads to that great moment where one of the workers is walking by one of those pools, and one of the rich people is like, come into the pool with me. And they're like, well, I'm not supposed to go in the pool. It's like, come on, you got to get in the pool. And they're like, I'm not supposed to. And by the end of it, this girl is saying yes, no, like trying to get in her answer and getting to the pool. And like just all the different problems that arise from that philosophy. Just think about it. Think about not giving yourself boundaries in that situation, especially in a cruise ship that's about to run into an awful storm and all this other stuff. I really, really, really enjoyed it. In fact, I will definitely watch Triangle of Sadness multiple times, because I love how it's shot. I love how it's presented. And this was a surprise for me, even though you and Ian both recommended it to me after you guys had seen it. I was still surprised at how much I enjoyed the movie ultimately.
People don't talk about that first act enough, in my opinion. I think the first act is really good too. I love that conversation at dinner. I think it's really interesting
it's very interesting. It's something that we go through every day, right? With communicating to people, and where his thought is, you said that you were going to pay for the dinner the next time we paid for the dinner. Then she makes it about money, which is what it's not about,
right?
At all. And he's like, it's not about, and he suddenly, starts arguing about money when it's really about the fact that she said that she'd pay, and that she's forgotten conveniently that she was going to pay for it the next time. And you find out they find out the truths about themselves in that whole conversation, even though they're clearly talking past each other for the longest time. But yeah, that first act is probably underrated and all of that. Let's see. Let's go to let's lightly touch on some box office movies. We don't need to talk about them very much. I thought Jurassic World Dominion was maybe the worst movie of the year, and that's saying something with Black Adam out there. Jurassic World Dominion commits one of the biggest sins of any kind of franchise, which is, you don't like dinosaurs, do you? Let's not put dinosaurs in it then. You're tired of the dinosaurs, right? And it's like, no, there's 6 motherfucking movies with dinosaurs. We aren't tired of dinosaurs. What the fuck are you talking about? And so they make it about these giant fucking insects and everything. And it's like, no, guys, this is where are we at this point? Apparently, I've been told the director's cut of this movie is way better. I don't know if I'm interested enough to watch, because that's how bad I thought Dominion was.
I haven't seen a single person on any social media that I peruse say a positive thing about this movie. And I've seen people say positive things about Black Adam.
Because the only positive thing about this movie are things that the movie then ruins. Like, it is a positive that you got the whole gang back together. That's fun. I like that. I like that our original people are all here. But you ruin it by not giving them anything to do and by making them like side quest peoples. Like, it's just the movie is, to me, a conglomeration of trying to force pieces into a puzzle that they're not meant for. And so it's just trying to do all this stuff that just, instead of starting with an interesting story and then building around it what you need, it clearly starts with the idea that, we're getting these people into this thing and how can we figure it out? So, yeah.
And then I'm mentioning this only because it was in the top 10, and you won't believe that it was in the top 10 when you're going to be like, really? Minions, The Rise of Gru, which neither Jeremy or I saw. Aaron saw it. Tell me what you thought about The Rise of Gru, Aaron.
Aaron saw it with several tuxedoed teenagers because that was the TikTok trend. Half the reason this is in the top 10 is because of the Minions trend that happened. It's the Minions. The first Despicable Me movie is pretty good. The rest of them are just kind of derivative, and this follows that. I mean, if you want to laugh at yellow butts, you can laugh at yellow butts. There's some in here, so yeah.
And that rounds out the top 10. Not one original movie hit the top 10. The closest one was Nope. It was 14th. We're talking domestic box office here. We're not talking more worldwide. I think worldwide there were 2 actually. I was looking at some of the worldwide. There was one that was like, I think, a Chinese product, but it was a sequel too. So I was like, Jesus Christ, man. Even the movies we don't get that make the top 10 worldwide are sequels. Then let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, let's talk about some animation here.
Okay.
Since we just got into The Rise of Gru and everything, let's talk about a failure. But Aaron, you may want to defend Lightyear. You may want to defend Lightyear. No defending of Lightyear.
No, I mean,
like how we politicized Lightyear when it came out.
So ridiculous.
Like it was. Oh, we didn't put Tim Allen in the movie. No, the movie is not good. And so anyway, what did you think about Lightyear?
Yeah, it pains me to say that it's not good, but it's such a misunderstanding of everything that we like about the universe and the character, and the concept is just so weird and mishandled. And also hard to understand for a lot of people. Like the fact that this was the movie that the toys that Andy bought were based on doesn't make any sense with the movie we're given. Doesn't make any sense with the movie we're given. So if you're going to do that concept, at least have some fun with what a, like campy spaceman movie from the early 90s might have looked like. You know what I mean? Like instead of this thing. So there are moments I enjoy. I mean, there are smart people working, on this movie that do some fun stuff, but overall it's a ill-considered movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I was shocked at how unlikable this movie was. Like normally Pixar at least put some kind of care, and even the Cars movies are not, as bad as this. And I know that you will defend Cars movies, but
I'll defend Cars 1, but not
yeah,
Cars 2.
Okay, good, because the other two you can't defend. But no, I was shocked at how this, it used to be when you had a Pixar list, like they were all great, and it was hard to stack them onto each other, which one would be in your top 5 and
right
stuff,
yeah,
because they were so good. And now we have a few examples at this point now. I mean, that's only natural, I guess. If you're going to make so many movies, you're going to eventually get there, but now we've got several that you can just go ahead and put at the bottom of the list right away and not even worry about it. And it's amazing how little care seemed to have gone into Lightyear. A movie that both of you have talked about, I have not seen, The Sea Beast.
Ooh. Yeah, what do you think of Sea Beast, Jeremy?
I can't understand the word you're saying. I don't know the title. I don't know the title of the movie you're saying. My hearing is kind of
The Sea Beast.
The Sea Beast? The Sea Beast. God, okay, I finally caught up to you. The Sea Beast is delightful. I believe a lot of the same team that made Klaus, a Netflix Christmas movie, is on this film, maybe even the director. And that's why we watched Sea Beast, because my wife really loves Klaus. It was a pretty original adventure about taming and fighting sea beasts, but it's some of the most realistic animation in parts that I have ever seen in my life. It feels weird that Netflix would put out a movie like that, because they seem to enjoy cutting corners. I don't know, not on budget, I guess. Anyway, Sea Beast is beautiful and delightful, fun little movie that probably shouldn't win Best Picture or anything, but there you go.
The director of Sea Beast also directed Big Hero 6 well. So
good pedigree. Yeah,
definitely good pedigree. It's very entertaining. It's absolutely How to Train Your Kraken. Like it is, the blueprint is there. But it's a lot of fun to watch, and it takes its world and characters seriously, and gives them real stuff to do. So I really enjoyed The Sea Beast. It's one of the best animated movies of the year for sure.
The front runner for best animated feature is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which I love the animation of this movie.
Yeah.
And I think it's sort of set a new standard for Pinocchio movies, if there's a standard that we need to live by in a Pinocchio movie. When you set out to remake something, this is how I feel like you should do it. I don't know why this movie, of all the ones that are in the category, is the one that everybody wants to win or seems to be the favorite to win.
I mean, is it too simple to say that Netflix is doing a good job of promoting it? Like they are really going hard at the like they invited us in the CCA out to an event to see like all the stop motion sets, which was really cool experience at the new Academy Museum that was able to see. I think it's the technical achievement. I think the Academy also loves Guillermo del Toro. Like it's just he's so likable. And it's a really good movie. It puts the focus honestly on what the focus of the story of Pinocchio always should have been, which is Geppetto. Like it is a story about how Geppetto deals with death. Like that's the actual story. And it's willing to be real about that and dark about that. It's a really good movie. Yeah.
I think it's one of the best visual accomplishments I've ever seen. Like, I don't think there's a stop motion movie I've ever seen that has this level of attention to detail and is this gorgeous. I struggle to emotionally connect to it. But I did really enjoy it.
I remember them
And-
talking about that level of detail, Jeremy, that they wanted to animate mistakes into the stop motion, because a lot of times with animation or stop motion, you don't want to spend extra frames on just human things like somebody dropping a pencil or a door not shutting all the way or those kind of things. But they were deliberate about, we're going to include things that happen in real life that give it that kind of life. So when you watch it with that eye, it's really interesting, all the little different mistakes that happen by the characters in the movie.
There's a
and it,
I'm
what?
sorry, this is a non sequitur, but there's a Native American tradition in some tribes of intentionally sewing a mistake into a piece of clothing or a blanket or what have you. And I think I'm talking out of my ass here. I think it has to do with leaving a way for the spirits of your ancestors to either come back or speak to you or what have you. But when I was reading about it, I remember thinking there's kind of a beauty to that. Perfection is kind of false feeling. Anyway, I didn't know that about Pinocchio. That's interesting.
It also came in the year in which another Pinocchio came out from Disney doing the remake with Tom Hanks and everything. So not to be confused with that Pinocchio. I didn't see that other Pinocchio, but I did see the Sims video for it, and I was like, I'm glad I didn't see that. Glad I didn't see that movie.
That's terrible.
The movie that I wish would be higher on the animation list as far as possibly winning is Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
Yes.
This movie is a delight. It's a fake documentary style with this cute shell voiced by Jenny Slate, and about basically a guy who checks into an Airbnb and finds the shell roving around in a tennis ball all throughout, and then just asking questions about his life. And it's got a lot of inventiveness to it. It's original, it's fun, it's funny, it's got touching moments in it. In another world, I think this one is probably the front runner, but it's gonna probably get beat by the Pinocchio movie. But what did you think, Aaron?
I love it. Marcel, first time I saw it, I was like that. I mean, I cried. It's a very interestingly emotional movie. I also find it interesting how it fits into best animated film, because
yeah, that's true.
A lot of the screen is just the real world. So I wonder how they make those distinctions sometimes. And a lot of the actors are just real world actors, but I guess there's enough stop motion animation or different types of animation.
Yeah.
That it includes, and I'm glad it does, because I want it to have as much attention as possible. I think Jenny Slate is really deep, and as funny as she is, she has made some really interesting material that makes me think. And I did not expect to go see a Shell movie that made me think as deeply as this one did. So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting this to be as good as it was, and totally blown away by it. Just saw it over the weekend, so I was really happy with it. The only other animated movie I see on this list of movies that we were going to talk about is Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, which Aaron saw. I thought Jeremy saw this too, but it shows that it doesn't show up as you have seeing it, Jeremy. But
did you watch this,
Chip 'n
Jeremy?
Dale?
Chip 'n Dale?
Yeah, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers.
No, and I mean, I saw some Chip 'n Dale shit back in the day when I was a kid. I don't think this is that.
Was there some other animated thing that came out over the past year that was an existing property that people fell in love with that wasn't Chip 'n Dale? I swear Jeremy recommended one of them, but doesn't matter. It's neither here nor there. Aaron, what did you think of Chip 'n Dale?
Whatever the case, this is the Lonely Island guys doing a Chip 'n Dale movie, and it is hilarious. And it's very much the it's Roger Rabbit that has all the different IP and different stuff in it, right? That's like a mix of animation and live action and that kind of stuff. It's that feel. Like there's like a Gumby type character, like anything you've seen in animation, this world treats it as if those are sentient beings in our actual world. So they just walk around as animated beings, or and for instance, one of the jokes is that old school animated creatures will go get CG surgery. And so they will then become, CG.
I did see this movie and recommend it, and then it just completely went out of my head.
But I had a really good time with it. The Lonely Island guys are hilarious, and there's a lot of fun to be had at this one. So yeah, I've seen it a couple times and enjoyed it.
Sorry, there, your memory was correct, Chris. Mine was not.
That's all right. There's a number of million things that come out in a given year, and it could have been some other thing that I was thinking of. There's been discussion about Turning Red and Puss in Boots. We're not really going to talk about those here today. We've got too many to go through, but maybe Aaron, you got
just quickly.
I'll
say they're both great, and Puss in Boots is surprisingly amazing. It's really good.
It's one of the best, one of the best reviewed films of the entire year. So
it's really good.
Really,
yeah,
really. Puss in Boots. Huh.
Yep.
The Last Wish.
The Last Wish.
Yep.
Okay. All right. If this is okay with you guys, I think a couple more Oscar maybe nominees we'll talk a little bit more in length about, but I'm going to start running down.
Sure.
Don't get into the speed round.
Trying to get into the speed of all this here. Tar, Kate Blanchett is amazing. That's all I really have to say about Tar. Tar is a really well made movie, but Kate Blanchett is amazing.
It's worth a watch for her performance alone. I am really excited to watch it again. I haven't watched it since I read an article about a possible reading of the movie that never occurred to me, about a literal haunting, that this movie is a literal ghost story. I'm excited to watch it through that lens. That's interesting to me.
Yeah. The Whale. I think Brendan Fraser is definitely getting the proper accolades for this performance in this movie. It got some controversy. I'm not sure what I actually didn't read about the controversy. What was that all about? Does anybody know?
There is some controversy from and I apologize if I use the wrong wording. I could be considered a part of this community, the overweight community. That the way that it handles obesity is pretty negative and pretty judgmental. So that I think is the controversy there.
I mean, I don't know, but Brendan Fraser is great in it, and I thought this movie was way better than I was expecting when I came in to watch it. So
I didn't vibe with it very well, but Brendan Fraser is really, really good.
I really hope we're in for a Brendan Fraser renaissance.
Yeah, I think we might be after this. Living, which is the remake of Akiru that came out, that's got Bill Nighy as an Oscar nomination in this. I really loved Living.
Good.
You have the basis of Akiru on this. Akiru is really great, of course. I think they actually just credit the original screenwriter on this. I don't think they may not even give a credit to another screenwriter on that movie. I'm not sure. But I thought Living was good. I thought Bill Nighy is awesome in it. Talking about, sort of working in a job where you're in a bureaucracy and you have to keep on handing files off and passing files off, and there's no consequences to you passing off files to anybody and never getting anything done and so on. But I thought Bill Nighy is really great. He's not in any sort of contention to win in that category, but I thought he was great in it. Women Talking.
All of that.
Yep. Okay, good. Women Talking, which Jeremy and I both recommended in last week's episode. We both loved that quite a bit. Aaron, what did you think?
Oh, I love it. It's in my top 5 of the year. I think it's incredible performances. I hope it wins Best Screenplay. I think it deserves it. I think it's a really incredible screenplay. Yeah,
very thoughtful screenplay. After Sun, which I recommended recently. This is a movie that I wasn't quite sure about all the way through until at the end I was forced to consider everything that I just saw and realized what a beautiful movie that is. So I really liked After Sun. What did you think, Aaron?
I agree with that. This movie had me guess. It's so weird that a movie like this had me guessing all the way through. There's something about the way that it's made. There's almost like an ominous feeling to the construction of this movie where you're always thinking what shoe is going to drop and when. And by the end, you get to a place where you understand things that you didn't understand. And it's a really beautiful movie. It really is.
I'm put to Leslie on here just to have the discussion about the Oscar process, how Andrea Riseborough basically got campaigned into a nomination on that, and we always discuss who gets snubbed in a year like this and everything, and Daniel Deadweiler is definitely one of those that got snubbed. If you watch Till, I don't know if you can say who's better than the other, but to me it just sounds like you should just expand the category. And I know that you're wanting to keep the Oscar telecast short, but I've always considered making the Oscar telecast short appealing to people who don't like movies as much as we do.
Thank you. Yes. Start it earlier and let it go 7 hours if it needs. Make it like a sporting event. Nobody talks about the Super Bowl being 5 hours long because the people who love football will watch it. Yeah.
So, and it was, and just as an aside, it's the same thing that they're doing with baseball, which I'm just like, okay, maybe the pitch clock will be good. I don't know. But, just expand the category for God's sake. That's all. If you would never have like snubs like that if it wasn't for that type of thing. I watched this movie this morning, Argentina 1985.
It's good, right?
Which is the best Oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
it is. It's probably if it wasn't for All Quiet on the Western Front, it would be the front runner for best international film. This movie's great. If you love justice movies, basically like
courtroom justice,
courtroom justice, and movies that have such a complex political situation. Like, how do you solve this problem? And I just love how this is laid out. I think Argentina 1985 might be a movie that I big recommend soon. That's how good it is. And yes, it was just recently in my mind. It's got recency bias, but out of all the movies I saw this past weekend, which was a lot, was one of my favorite ones that I saw.
It's so good.
Blonde. I think we're mentioning Blonde because of how horrible it was, and I'm surprised, even though I love Ana de Armas to pieces, I hated this movie. I think we all hated it, right?
I'm surprised she made this movie. I understand the filmmaker has a history of making edgier type, not mainstream take kind of movies. It's just, maybe she connects to Marilyn on some sort of a spiritual level and wanted to try. And I do think the movie shows, and this is based on a fictional work, so this largely fictional movie, but I do think it shows how we kind of, society at that time just took her person and threw it in a closet and shut the door and just made her what we wanted her to be. But no, I did not enjoy this movie at all.
It's just it's so tone deaf to the fact that it's kind of doing the same thing it's taking task other people for doing
to Ana de Armas. What?
Yes. Yeah. It's so weird. It's so weird. How do you not see that?
Yeah.
I think the guy just likes
this
stuff.
Yeah, this movie is icky, and I'm very shocked it got an Oscar nomination, even though Ana de Armas does the best she can with that. All That Breathes, which is what Jeremy recommended, I believe, last week. I watched this as well. Another great HBO documentary, and a movie that sort of makes you like down on the earth, basically.
I mean, I do think that's what I was trying to say when I was recommending it, is that it sort of forced me to reconsider my place in history and the world and how important that is. I'm still wrestling with the movie.
Yeah. I thought it was great. Like you guys did. It just, that's the type of movie. It reminded me of that that cat documentary that came out a couple years ago, where the cats were getting moved out of their cities because the city was developing, and like who's going to save the cats? Well, the answer the movie comes up with is no one. No one's going to have to save these stray cats that are everywhere. RRR, which is I when I gave Aaron my top 5 for the list, it was in there. I don't know if it will be there now, but it's certainly a strong contender. This is one of the most, if it wasn't for Everything Everywhere All at Once, this would be the most bonkers movie of the year, probably. Like big action scenes, hilarious, like great musical numbers. It's got everything you want in a movie, really. It's insane.
When it hits Not To in the middle and that whole dance scene happens, I was on the floor. I was in, I was dead. I was like, just whatever you're going to show me, just show me. Cause this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Like, I cannot believe the audacity this movie has. And that audacity works. Like it's just, it's a mind blowing, movie watching experience. It really is.
Oh,
it's on my list. Movie. It's very high on my list, but it's on a separate side list of movies over 3 hours long that I have to wait differently than the normal.
That's very
this movie
true.
does not feel 3 hours, though.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. I had to carve out an afternoon, but it does not feel like.
I believe you. I believe you.
So yeah,
and you'll be in right from the beginning. Like it does not waste any time, like pulling you in. So yeah.
We can talk about X and Pearl together. I liked Pearl better than X, but and talk about a performance that got snubbed was Mia Goth in Pearl.
That monologue at the end is incredible.
It really is, and then the fact that she holds that expression during the credits at the end is amazing too. X I did not really like when I first watched it, and then I watched it again and I really got down. I really dug it the second time I watched it. I think you have an idea of what a movie is when you first watch it, and if it doesn't get to those expectations, just like we've always talked about, like we have expectations in movies and they don't meet them, then we don't like it. And I saw it again and I was like, oh, okay, I get where we're going for here. I like that. But Pearl, just a tour de force Mia Goth performance, and I loved it to pieces. What do you guys think of those movies?
I like Pearl better than X, and I like them both for the exploration of sexual repression, which I like. Our culture has a lot of things to wrestle with. I don't think we've begun to wrestle with how sexually repressed our culture is and how that impacts us as human beings. And this movie is willing to go there, and it goes there in ridiculous ways, whatever. But I think it understands what it's saying, and that's I appreciated that, especially about Pearl. So
I really liked X, and then I saw Pearl, and I like Pearl more than X, and then I saw X again, and I like X more than Pearl. There's something. I'm not even a big horror guy, and honestly, this movie to me is more about the sexual repression than it is about the horror. And I just think it's a fascinating look. Like you sell this movie to the public on it's a horror movie taking place on a porn shoot, I think, but it's not. It's got a lot more to say than that. And I love the dynamic where they go from explaining to Jenna Ortega why it's different for his girlfriend to sleep with the porn star when there's a camera on. The camera makes all the difference, and then she goes, I want to be in a scene. And everybody reacts differently now that she's interested. She goes from repressed to interested, and that causes ripple effects. I love them both, but I slightly edge X right now.
And God, what a year for Jenna Ortega, right? I mean, just to the common person like me, had never heard of Jenna Ortega before, to now she's like a superstar, like Scream, X, and Wednesday all in 1 year,
and Fallout.
Yeah, exactly. So what a great year for her. Barbarian, which is a polarizing horror movie, I really liked it a lot, but I don't know, what did you think of it, Aaron?
I hated it. I hated it so much.
Yep.
Just not my jam. Just not my jam.
Yeah. The scene where Justin Long is making measurements of the basement.
Hilarious.
is one of the best scenes of the year.
I agree.
But yeah, I know where you're going with on Barbarian. I really liked it though. Decision to Leave, another big Oscar snub, I think. This movie was, I mean, it's really good. What did you think about Decision to Leave, Aaron?
This was a Fantastic Fest movie.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting one because he was there as well. And he the first thing he said was, I think I may have entered my movie into the wrong festival. He's not all wrong. He's not all wrong.
Yeah.
But it is, as for somebody like myself who loves Hitchcock as much as I do, it's hard not to like this movie. It is very Vertigo. There's so much Vertigo in this movie.
Very much so.
And he has said as much. That is a conscious decision. And so I did enjoy it. I didn't love it, but I did enjoy it.
It's one of those movies where it's got one of the more unforgettable endings of the year too.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. Till, which is we're talking about, I wanted to talk about because of Daniel Deadweiler's performance on this, which
So
was
good.
hugely snubbed, and of course she had a pretty big year too. Station 11 that came out was still like in its it's still in its run, I think, at the beginning of 2022.
Correct.
She had a great year herself. I mean, at the very least she raised her profile. Till I don't know what kind of what it did box office wise or whatever. I don't think it did anything. It wasn't really pushed that much. So I think there's she may have been excluded by the fact that very few people saw the movie. But if you ever want to delve into the story of Emmett Till, it's well worth looking at. It's a horrifying story. And what the actions that took place in Till were something that I don't think very many people or nobody had ever undertaken before, to try to get that story out there, to try to get people to understand what kind of violence was going on with Black people in the South, especially Mississippi, which is the subject of so many of these racist movies.
Yeah, it is capital A acting. It's incredible work from Deadweiler. It is it may be the best performance of the year, just not even taking into mind gender. Like, it just may be the best performance of the year. So it's really weird that it's not nominated. I think if the Andrea Riseborough thing hadn't been at the expense of Daniel Deadweiler and to a degree, who's in The Woman King? Why is the name
Viola Davis?
Viola Davis. If it hadn't been such a couple of amazing Black performances that got kind of snubbed by that, I don't know that it would have been as controversial as it was. In fact, it may have been celebrated as like a grassroots interesting thing that happened.
Yeah.
But the fact that those two performances got left out, I think, is what leaves a bad taste in the mouth from that whole thing.
Navalny is the front runner for documentary feature of the year. It shows here that I'm the only one who saw this.
That's correct. This is one I missed. Yeah, I did not get a chance to see this one.
Both of you need to watch Navalny. This is if you want to talk about like a story that's like unbelievable. If they didn't film this, you would never believe this type of thing. Of course, Alexei Navalny was someone who ran against Vladimir Putin in Russia, and was suddenly became he was easily became followed, and Putin wanted to put an end to that guy quickly. And of course, there's a story of him getting poisoned and having to get somehow out of a Russian hospital and sent to I think he went to a French hospital because he couldn't trust the Russian doctors, and all this stuff going on in that. But how he finds out, he needs to find out proof. He needs to find proof that Putin could be behind this. And the way he finds it and the way he gets it is like fist pumping stuff
Nice.
when you watch it. And
this guy's in jail right now, right?
He is.
Yeah.
He came back to Moscow like planning on just sort of living his life. I mean, obviously he knew that he would be in trouble when he came back, but he got arrested immediately when he got
Some kind of trumped up BS charge too, from what I read.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and so he's been in jail for the last, I think, 2 or 3 years at this point. But
I'm excited to watch it.
Well worth watching. It's on HBO Max. You can easily see it.
I'm gonna watch that tonight.
Then there's Prey, which was probably one of the biggest releases not to hit theaters and was just streaming. Jeremy?
This movie is perfect. This movie is absolutely perfect in my mind. Everything is there for a reason. I've said it a million times. The foreshadowing is not overt, so that when it comes back around, you're like, oh, that's why we saw the thing, rather than seeing it the first time going, that's going to come back later. And I just think it's a really creative, clever way to make the Predator series new, is to take it back in time by a couple of centuries. Even the Predator is not as advanced as he is in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. And I think all the performances are great. This is in my top 5 for sure of the year.
It's great. Yeah, no, I was just going to jump on that bandwagon. Just Amber Midthunder is amazing in this movie, and how great is Trachtenberg? Like he continues to make these incredible movies that just kind of fly under the radar. I'm waiting for him to break out. He's also made some great episodes of television as well. He's directed a couple episodes.
An X-Men movie or Fantastic Four or something, man.
Yeah, or maybe not. Or maybe just give him more money to make something he wants to make. But yes, he's incredible.
I really dug Prey too. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. A stripped down version of something that we'd seen before, but like it totally works the way that way, and I really enjoyed it as well. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Yes! I tell you, I don't know what. There's a variety of things that got Pedro Pascal into this like stratosphere. I mean, Game of Thrones, Mandalorian, all these things, but this is maybe the beginning of everybody loving Pedro Pascal, even though this wasn't like a huge hit.
Yeah.
It was still a decent hit. It was a decent enough hit, and God, he's so good in this movie.
Oh my gosh, he commits to this character. There's such a purity of his love for Nicolas Cage and Nicolas Cage movies.
Yeah,
and guarding Tess. This
yeah,
movie, I think, is it's cliche to say, but this is a love letter to movies and loving movies and making friends over your shared love of movies. This is also in my top 5 of the year. I'm not ashamed to say.
Wow.
I have seen this movie 4 or 5 times now, and I just the end is just a little bit too much, that final action thing, but it also has to do that to fully complete what it's trying to do. I adore it. I love it so much.
13 Lives, which is another movie that I think I had in my top 5 at one point. I'm not sure if it would be there now, but it's certainly a contender. That was, I mean, Ron Howard, man, the guy does these type of movies better than anything that he does.
When it really is Apollo 13, right? Like it really has a lot of those same beats. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. And more Colin Farrell love, man. He had a good year.
He really did.
After Yang, I didn't see this one.
Oh man, it's been months and months, but I remember thinking it was a very thoughtful, introspective look at individuality and humanity, and I can't speak much more on it. Isn't Colin Farrell in this too?
I was going to say, speaking of Colin Farrell having an amazing year,
I just remember really liking it. I need to go back to it.
No, it's really good. It's, for me, what I love about this kind of movie is how fully realized the universe is. There's something about, it's not quite to the level of like Her, where I'm just like, oh, this is the future, but it has a lot of those same elements where it's like, oh yeah, this makes a lot of, like that whole like family dance off, global game that they do or whatever is, it's really interesting and heartwarming and just kind of sets everything up for, exploring what sentience is, what it means to live, to exist. This is a question that movies and culture will probably continue to deal with as AI becomes, more and more prevalent. of what makes what makes life. What is life? And so yeah, it's an interesting exploration of that.
We've got about 11 movies left to go through to speed through. Rosaline is another one, or
Loved it.
Rosalind.
Caitlin Deaver can do no wrong in my book. She's got range.
Yep. I like her quite a bit. Don't Worry, Darling. One of the bigger disappointments for me this year. Aaron, what'd you think?
Yeah, it's a big disappointment, and I think worth talking about just because it's kind of those like what went wrong here kind of movies. Like when you're dealing with a concept that, in my opinion, is this interesting. Like there's a really interesting concept underneath here without trying to spoil too much. But the movie has no idea how to handle it. Like no idea what's going to be an interesting or fun experience for the audience in handling it. And also no real effort in making it make sense. So
I don't think I checked the sheet as having watched it, but I have tried to watch it 3 times. I just have yet to finish it.
You did check the sheet as having watched it, but the thing for me, and this is one of the epitome of all of these movies this year. I'm tired of people setting up the movies to setting up the surprise that's not that big of a deal, and that if you knew the surprise early on, you could make a better movie a lot of times. And this is that for me.
Yes,
if you knew the surprise early on, then this movie becomes a lot better and a lot more tense. But this movie seems to think that it's got a huge surprise in store, even though you've seen The Village and you've seen other movies like it. That was my biggest problem with it, was that you knew what the surprise was pretty much going into it. And so I was just like, just go ahead and tell us. We are a savvy audience. Just tell us the surprise, and then have Florence Pugh trying to get out of it with the knowledge of what she has. And then that becomes, every scene becomes tenser at that point for me.
Yep.
Morbius. I forgot about that.
God. The first
Aaron wanted to talk about Morbius.
I really did, because the first thing you said when you were like, when I think you said that Black Adam may have been the worst superhero movie of the year, and I was like, let's not forget about Morbin time, because that was a real thing that happened. Just everything about this movie is terrible and wild. So
yes, it is.
The Scream or Scream 5, whatever you want to call it. I didn't like this at all. But I don't know. It introduced us to Jenna Ortega. Introduced a lot of us to Jenna Ortega, and I thought she was good in it. But
I thought it was fun. Maybe I just have a thing for meta movies, and I mean, the Scream franchise is the meta-est of the metas, and it's just, there's clever things that happen in this movie that I had a good time with. It's not in my top movies of the year or anything, but I had fun with it. So
yeah. Bodies, which I know Jeremy hates. I
don't hate this movie.
I don't hate it.
I dug it. I dug it just because it's basically like it made a whole horror movie out of basically like social media bullshit. Basically, is what it made. It made a whole horror movie out of that. And everybody in this is so dumb and sort of deserves, quote unquote, what they get. Could also be another Eat the Rich movie if you really want to look at it that
way. Absolutely.
So,
yeah, I mean, I think Pete Davidson is the Richie Rich of this Eat the Rich thing, and I think did we send that video? I should shut up. But yeah, he has a fucking gymnasium in his house. He's got swords hanging on the wall. What I like about this movie is that in the end, it is not at all what you thought you were watching. And I think it's very clever in that regard. I got a big laugh right near the end, and that redeemed the movie a bit for me. But yes, these people are insufferably stupid. They're terribly mean to each other, and I think that's the point. And I think the reason I didn't connect fully is I just feel like other movies have come before this that satirized influencer culture better than this movie does. But I didn't hate it. I will say that. I didn't hate it.
I was just offended when Rachel Sonnet was talking about her podcast and how much I felt attacked. No, I really enjoyed this movie. This is in my top movies of the year. I think it may even be in my top 15. I'd have to look, but I loved everything it had to say, and even more than that, loved how it was structured. I thought it was really smartly structured, especially for a slasher flick, and really enjoyed it. So yeah, I had fun.
That's why I dug it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, probably the funniest movie of the year is Weird, the Al Yankovic story. I don't know if there was anything funnier this year. Maybe
not for me. It definitely hit me exactly where it intended to. I think the movie makes some really genius turns. There's a turn with the I'm just gonna say the song. I think it's "Fat" is the Weird Al song. And there's a turn that this movie makes that I never saw coming, and I was just on the floor laughing. This movie is really, really funny.
It's got that same Walk Hard feel, and Walk Hard is a classic at this point, I feel like. And it's got that same feel, and it may be even goofier than Walk Hard is.
You can't even watch Walk the Line anymore without laughing.
No, you can't.
Of Walk Hard.
And Nick in the chat is correct. It was Eat It, actually, was where that turn happened, was with the Eat It.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Fresh, not the one we recommended on this very podcast. Another Fresh, which a lot of people thought we meant when we first were going to do Fresh. Okay, what is this Fresh about?
This is one I just wanted to bring up because I think you guys might really enjoy this. It is the type of horror movie that I think really holds together. It's some of the best I've ever seen somebody tear apart dating culture from the perspective of a woman, and just the idea of just how clueless children can be sometimes. And I really, really liked Fresh. I thought it was good. And Sebastian Stan is really good in it. He's having a good year too. So yeah.
Good luck to you, Leo Grand, which is the first time I've ever seen those words strung together. So tell me.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, this is it Emma Thompson that's in this? Let me make sure. Good luck to you, Leo Grand. Yeah, Emma Thompson. She is phenomenal in this. This is a movie that explores sexual repression, her trying to figure out who she is as a sexual being. It has one of the best uses of non-sexual nudity in a movie I've ever seen. It finishes the movie in a really, really powerful way. Is another one I just wanted to mention because I think you guys might really, really like it and appreciate it and the things that it has to say. So yeah, this is a really, really good one.
Another movie called Hustle came out this year. So many movies want to be Hustle or Hustlers or anything in the past couple of years. What is this? Yeah, or The Hustle. What is this Hustle about?
This is Sandler. This is Sandler's basketball movie that came out this year, and it's better than it has any right to be. Sandler's such an interesting actor. Like, he'll do really terrible comedy to cash a paycheck, and then he'll just be in something that's like a really good sports movie. And like Hustle is a really good sports movie. I recommend it. So something to check out. Okay.
I did see this, The Woman King, which was kind of a surprise hit, actually. I thought this was really well done. What did you think about The Woman King, Aaron?
I think it's great. I think there are parts of it I could do without. I think the movie could use a little more time in the editing suite. But there's some really great performances, some really interesting story turns, and beyond that, the action is incredible. I know there's some controversy with focusing on this group and their relationship to the slave trade. Like, I understand that controversy is there. I've read some stuff on it. But as far as a movie goes, I think this is a pretty incredible one. So yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty solid. And finally, we end it with Vengeance.
This is man, I'm doing horrible with names today. It is the guy from The Office.
It's BJ Novak.
BJ Novak. Yes, thank you. So this is the BJ Novak film. I wanted to mention it because it is unique, original, and interesting enough that I think you guys might enjoy it. It also has some of the sharpest social commentary that I've seen in a while. There's the movie opens with this whole scene of just him and another dude bro talking together, but they just keep saying 100%, 100%, 100%. And it just destroys this thing that is just like overtaken culture where every single human of every single gender and every single age says 100% as a way to agree to something. So it's just that kind of insight in interest that I found. Also, Ashton Kutcher's really good in it, which is kind of hit or miss for me. And it has some interesting things to say about vengeance. And I'm not actually sure I agree with the message of this movie, but it did have me thinking. So I thought it was worth mentioning.
Okay, so that was roughly 60 movies, and we missed about 100 and so. That's how many movies there are. Like, not everything's worth talking about. Even some of the movies we brought up, not even worth talking about. But it's time, I believe, to award our favorite movie of the year. I think it's pretty obvious what that's going to be, but here we go. I'm going to start with you, Jeremy. What is your favorite movie this year?
I really wanted to throw a curveball. I really, really wanted to, because I like chaos, but I think the best movie of the year is Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay. Aaron, what was your favorite movie of the
Morbius.
year? Morbius. There it is. We put it on the chalk. You can't take it back.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yeah.
Yeah, this is unanimous. I think this is maybe the first unanimous in a long time that we've had. The movie's just straight up original, fun, funny, dramatic, hits y'all on the right spots. Everything about this is great. I think if there's anything to really nitpick about it, there's just, I don't know. It's even the nitpicks don't really matter. I mean, nitpicks never matter, but like nothing really matters as far as if you wanted to tear this movie apart. This was an easy one. I couldn't think of anything that even came close to this one for me this year.
I am curious. Do you guys want to say your number twos, or have you thought about that at all? What would have been like?
I never I haven't made an official ranking because I didn't think it was going to go past this.
Right.
I probably would go with The Fallout for my second one. I know we didn't talk about it much, and nobody talks about it because it came out in January of 2022. But that movie deeply affected me. So yeah, that'd probably be my second.
Yeah, The Menu would have been my number two.
That would have been my third.
I would. It would have been either something like Banshees of Inisherin or 13 Lives or something like that. Man, I don't know. I'm processing about 12 movies I watched over the weekend too. So like, I don't know where they fit into all this. But something like those would probably be in the conversation. Anyway, once again, would like to thank chat for coming out and
I tell you what, live chat, stick around after the show, and if there are any movies that we didn't mention from 2022, I will hang around and chat about those with you if you want.
Very nice of you.
Yeah.
You must have eaten something before we started. I have to go to lunch rapidly. We do want to give out next week's homework as we shift back to the Recotopia main format. It's my choice, and I'm glad to tell you that Wag the Dog is now on HBO Max or Amazon Prime if you have a premium subscription. And I have not seen Wag the Dog in maybe 20 years, and I remember it as a biting satire about politics and war, and I'm excited to go back. You're going to see baby Kirsten Dunst in this movie, and I'm excited to see it. So there you go. That's next week's homework.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for the main episode. Aaron's going to stick by and talk to you about other movies that came out in the year. Thank you, Aaron, for doing that.
Yeah, what a nice guy.
That's really decent of you. Wag the Dog next homework next week, and thank you guys for coming out again to watch us. That's going to be it for this episode. See ya. Bye.
All right, I'll keep it live. Chris and Jeremy, you guys can head out and grab some food.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
See you guys.
Peace. All righty. Okay, so I saw a couple that were mentioned. Basically, if you want to mention a movie from 2022 that you were hoping we had some conversation on or whatever, if I've seen it, then I will definitely have some conversation with you about it. I saw a couple in the chat already. Or if you have any other questions you want to chat about, feel free Somebody mentioned The Northman. The Northman happened pretty early on in the year, but I remember thinking it was spectacular to watch, but came off a little bit as it almost felt a little animated to me, like almost anime, which is a type of over-realism that doesn't always appeal to me. But The Northman's really good. I was actually surprised it didn't get a little more, just kind of at least in the conversation during award season. So I saw that was mentioned. Last Night in Soho, was that this year? Was Last Night in Soho this year? Feels like that was last year, but I'll check. Either way, I will tell you, I didn't much enjoy Last Night in Soho. It was the first Edgar Wright miss for me. Last night. Yeah, that was 2021. So yeah. Sorry, Shereen. Let's see. James says, thank you for sticking around, Aaron. Did you watch Wendell and Wild? If so, how did you feel about it? I did watch Wendell and Wild. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. It didn't, to me, live up to Coraline and Nightmare Before Christmas and some of the other movies they've made, but you could really feel the key and peele of it all, which is a good thing. But overall, I just didn't quite connect to it as much as I wanted to. Let's see. Yeah, we talked about Nope earlier, Shireen, so you should be able to listen to that on the show proper. Link says, what was the worst movie of the year? I think it's really easy to say Morbius was the worst movie of the year. But I think that's mostly because of the prominence. And I would actually, I should open my whole list here so I can take a look. Because there's always stuff that's just bad. There's just like Halloween Ends. Halloween Ends was probably the worst movie of the year, if I'm being honest. For me, I think that was terrible. Let's see. Rando says Turning Red was touched on, but it was a miss for me. I actually liked Turning Red. Big surprise, the Pixar guy likes a Pixar movie, but I didn't like Lightyear as much. But I think Turning Red is really good. I think Domi-Shi really has a handle on her perspective and what she wants to do, and I really enjoyed it. I thought the themes were really, really good. Let's see. No, Eduardo says, hi, Aaron. I didn't catch up from the beginning. Did you guys talk about Men? No, we did not talk about Men. I enjoyed Men more than most, I think. I think a lot of people are put off by how overt the metaphor is. That doesn't bother me. This movie does not read to me like a story with a metaphor. This movie reads to me like a metaphor that has a little bit of story. And I thought the man birth scene at the end was as grotesque and explicit as it was. It really is the most dramatic way to reveal that metaphor of generational trauma. So yeah. And the tunnel scene, the tunnel echo scene is one of my favorite scenes of the year. Just astonishing filmmaking, that tunnel echo scene. So yeah, I really liked that. Nolan says, how about See How They Run? Thought it was another good whodunit with some screenplay jokes put in. Yeah, I actually really liked See How They Run. I really enjoyed it. It doesn't feel to me like one I have to rewatch, but I enjoyed the way it was structured, and I did think it was hilarious. And Saoirse Ronan can do no wrong. Like I love Saoirse. She's amazing. So yeah, definitely enjoyed See How They Run. Finn says Jackass Forever. Both Jackass Forever and whatever the half movie, do they call it, like 4.5 or whatever? I actually liked the 0.5 movie more because it felt more like it was saying something with some of the interstitial interviews they did. The Jackass movies don't appeal to me. They appeal to the human side of me that goes, you people are insane. What are you doing? Like there's certainly that entertainment, gladiatorial, kind of thing. But I think I have that cognitive dissonance where I'm like, is that feeling good? Is that feeling of, oh my goodness, Johnny Knoxville is going to get himself killed by a bull? It almost did, by the way. In fact, he's talked about how he thinks that's the closest he's ever been to dying on camera. Is it good? Is it good for me to be entertained by that? Whether I am or not, it's almost beside the point. Is it good? And so I deal with that. And so I kind of go back and forth on those movies quite a bit. Let's see. Castroff says, I wanted to defend Lightyear. That's fine, Castroff. You go ahead. You defend Lightyear. I'm glad. I love it when people love movies, even movies I didn't enjoy. Rando Dave, how about Emily the Criminal? Haven't seen it, but I've got it on my list. Well worth a watch. It is one of those movies where you're going to end up really considering the protagonist and their relationship to the decisions and the ethical things, the ethical choices they're making, the moral choices they're making during the movie. And she's amazing. She's doing such great work and is having a good year as well. Let's see. Nolan says, how about the ones Apple released this year? Cha-Cha Real Smooth, Greatest Beer Run, Causeway. Enjoyed them all, but Cha-Cha is the standout. Cha-Cha Real Smooth is really good. It's really good. I enjoyed that. Actually, I enjoyed all three of those movies. Greatest Beer Run, I was not expecting to like as much as I did. I thought it was a really well-told story. Causeway is the Brian Tyree Henry and Jennifer Lawrence, and they're both doing great work in it. I just couldn't vibe with the movie. I just couldn't find my way into just locking into the movie in a way where I was enjoying watching it. So, but it's good. It's good. Causeway is a good movie that I just didn't necessarily enjoy watching. DPW9475 says, any love for Spiderhead? Yeah, a little bit. That was Kosinski too, right? I actually wanted to say this during the main show. I think we accidentally, maybe it was in the chat. Somebody either in the chat or maybe one of us accidentally gave Christopher McQuarrie credit for Top Gun Maverick, which is a Kosinski movie. And Joseph Kosinski is one of my favorite directors, and I forgot, but I wanted to give him a shout out for Top Gun Maverick. But I think he did Spiderhead as well, and there are some things I really liked about it. I just think the movie falls apart towards the end, and I think our two leads are in two different movies. Both movies I would have enjoyed watching, but together the tones don't quite match up together. So Spiderhead was really close to being a movie I really enjoyed. Nate 1033 says, Year in Review is my favorite episode. Let's go. We went. So yes. Rando Dave says, Death on the Nile. I really liked it, but feel like I'm on an island. Yeah, I think you're on an island too. Very disappointing. Very disappointing after how much I enjoyed Murder on the Orient Express. Let's see. James says, do you have any 2023 movies you're excited about? Yes. Best way to hear me talk about that is probably to download the 2023 preview episode on Sift Pop, which is the podcast that I do weekly on pop culture. So we do a anticipated movies episode every year, and that episode is already in the feed. So yeah, we talk about all that stuff. Let's see. Nick Jagged says, any thoughts on the short films this year? I really liked The Night Ride and Ostrich Told Me the World is Fake. And I think I believe him. Nick, I actually haven't watched any of the short films. I really should, though. It's not like it's a hard thing to find. I know one of the theaters is playing them in town, and I think I could probably find them online for the most part, but I haven't taken the time to do that. Let's see. Did they talk about Megan? No, Megan's 2023. We were talking about 2022, so we'll talk about Megan next March. Stay tuned. Let's see. Aside from All That Breathes, what were some docs you loved? Man, what were the documentaries this year? I'm not having any come to mind immediately. that I enjoyed. Well, All the Beauty and the Bloodshed was pretty good. I get the love that's getting, for sure. And of course, we talked about All That Breathes, which you mentioned. So yeah, I'd have to sort by documentary, and I cannot do that right here, right now. So let's see. James says, meekly, I enjoyed Spiderhead. Yeah, me too. Me too. Rando says, where the crawdads sing. The Sins video is a great replacement for seeing that one. I thought that was a pretty bad movie. My wife really enjoyed it, though. I don't think it's not like there's not something there that you could enjoy. I just find the tropey way that twists are handled in these movies to be really annoying and distracting. So, yeah, I didn't like it too much. Aaron, your sign didn't fall down this time. Thank you. Thank you. I also have my camera on a stand now. The studio is coming together. That is a reference from another podcast I do. Also, I thought you were going to ask me about the movie Fall, which I hated, but I know other people on the team loved. So I don't want to diminish it for people, but I felt like it was pretty bad. Let's see. Goodnight Oppie. Yes, Goodnight Oppie was a good doc. Yeah, that was a really interesting one to watch. I've also been catching up on For All Mankind recently, and by catching up I mean starting to watch it and just binging the whole thing. And the whole going to Mars thing is there's just something about space travel I find really, really compelling, and the Goodnight Oppie stuff plays into that for sure. Other best docs, Navalny, which I mentioned I haven't seen, though we talked about it. Fire of Love I have seen and enjoyed. All the Beauty and the Bloodshed I saw and enjoyed. All That Breathes. I have not seen A House Made of Splinters. Bullet Train. I really liked Bullet Train. I feel like I'm on an island on that. I love how it took plot convenience and made it a plot point. Like, I love how it took that thing about movies that we can nitpick and be distracted by and was like, no, that's the point of this movie. This movie is about convenience. This movie is about luck. I really thought that was smart and allowed the movie to do some really interesting things and never have to worry about people going, oh, that's so convenient, because that's the point of the movie. So I really enjoyed Bullet Train. I thought Brad Pitt was really good in it, too. I did not see Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. I really should. It's the Paddington of old fat lady fashion movies. I've heard that as well. We actually didn't talk about Ambulance, Finn. Well, it was mentioned that we watched it at Sin Week. But Ambulance, I have come to. I think actually I was the defender on that podcast when the whole crew talked about that on the Sin Week podcast. I think I was the one that kind of said that there's something just really basic and fun here, and it doesn't have to be Oscar bait to be interesting or fun to watch. And I think Ambulance is fun to watch. I don't know who put drone sauce in Michael Bay's coffee, but okay, let's go. So I had more fun with Ambulance than I think everybody else did. What didn't like about Fall? Some of it could be that I am afraid of heights. That could be part of it. But I think every decision every character makes in this movie is the absolute stupidest decision they could make. The whole movie is predicated on a terrible idea that makes me think that anything that happens to these people, they probably deserve. And when I think my characters deserve to die, it's hard for me to root for them to live in that way. So that was probably it. Was a combination of those things. Let's see. Bullet Train was fun. Did you see White Noise or Duel? I did not see Duel, but I did see White Noise. I did not get White Noise. Loved the credits. Loved the credit scene. That was fun, but I did not get the movie. Let's see. Shireen says, so as usual, I'm alone on this. I'm used to that, but I'm in love with Where the Crawdads Sing. You're not alone. I told you my wife really likes it. I'm obsessed with Edgar Jones. That's Daisy Edgar Jones, right? Watched it about 5 times now. Got the book and finished it way too fast. And speaking of, I'm one of the people that loved the movie Fall. I really enjoy heights. I have the opposite of fear of heights. And yes, Bullet Train. Loved it. Nice. Gray Man. I kind of liked Gray Man. I thought it was fun. That's the kind of movie, like when I mentioned, like I can get into just a straight, well-structured, well-paced action movie that doesn't have to be like world-changing or do things differently. Like I like that genre. I like action. So Gray Man I thought was fun. Shaggy says Lost City was ugh. You're wrong, Shaggy. Lost City is actually really good. Really well done. I had a lot of fun with that one. It was ugh for you. I'm not saying you're wrong. You're entitled to your opinion, but I had a good time with Lost City. Why aren't we bashing Moonfall? It's a fair point. There's just so many movies to get through that it's hard to talk about them all. Moonfall deserves the bashing. Is it possible you could have fun with some of Moonfall, though? Like, if you let go of some of that stuff, like, it's possible there's some fun scenes in Moonfall. It's possible. Terrible movie. But I may have had fun a couple times. I was surprised we didn't talk about Smile. None of the three of us marked it to talk about. I think it's because none of us is very passionate about the movie. I really disliked the movie. This was another movie I saw at Fantastic Fest. And I just think there's nothing interesting about it. There's nothing new or interesting about it. Everything about this movie has been done before in better ways. Overall, conceptually, It Follows is a much better version of this movie, in my opinion. And I didn't feel like, yeah, I guess what I would say is technically there are some interesting things going on here. There's interesting things about the way it's made, but structurally and story-wise, there was nothing interesting to me for Smile. Nick said Aaron made everyone cry at Sin Week talking about Ambulance. That's right. I totally forgot that. I don't think everyone cried. I was certainly crying. Because there is some stuff in this movie about making first responders superheroes, and they are superheroes. I'm here because of first responders. I'm here first of all because of my wife who saved my life, and secondly because of the first responders that showed up 7 minutes later after she called. So yeah, very personal stuff. Any love for Bros? Yes, Eduardo. I really did like Bros. I thought it was a really wonderful rom-com and enjoyed it. I also enjoyed Spoilers. The hero dies at the end. Another one that I felt like put a little bit of spin on some tropes and really, really enjoyed that as well. Have we covered them all, guys? Have we covered them all? I'm still scrolling. I should say, as always, if we bash a movie that you love, do not feel bad about that. Love what you love, man. It's so important for the beauty of art to be subjective, and man, just enjoy what you enjoy. Like, there's a jealousy for me. Like, when you say you enjoyed Fall or you enjoyed, like, I get jealous. I don't get judgmental or angry. I get jealous. I wish I had the same experience because I love loving movies. And then just sometimes I don't love them. All right. Nick says, please put this in the outtakes because I got to go. Love you guys. Have a great week. See you for Captain Spot on Friday. I think we're done, Nick. But it'll be up to the producer what makes it into the editor, I should say, what makes it into the outtakes. So I'm not sure how much of this will be in there. But love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for so many sticking around for a few more minutes to talk other movies. I know at the end of this episode every year, there are always movies we don't get to that people are curious about. And I thought this might be a good way to maybe touch on some of those. So yeah, appreciate you guys. Love you. Catch you on the next one. Bye.